Let's talk about LUCA and the numerical limitations of the individual's need for a cultural identity and the enormous impact on anthropology. The acronym LUCA stands for Last Universal Common Ancestor. It is the theorized ancestral cell population from which all subsequent life forms descend, including the three current domains of life: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. LUCA is, or was out there. At some point, that was Genesis. That was the Word of God. That was where the tree of life began, and we are all related to it. Great to the exponent past the decillion power grandfather, LUCA. Those are numbers so large people have trouble visualizing their connection. Most people have difficulty comprehending past fourth generation of great-great-great-great-grandparents. That is 124 people you are directly tied to over a century span if we equate 20 years per generation. That's about the number of passengers on a Boeing 737. Then think that Homo sapiens first appeared, to our current estimates, a bit more than 300,000 years ago. I won't beat you around the head with those numbers tied directly to you. You get it. It's big. But it's still so hard to grasp. We want to belong to some group, a specific group, somewhere along that line of incomprehensible numbers. In fact, that is hardwired into our simian genetics for survival, being part of a specific troop or group or culture. But from where we are now, how are we supposed to pick one small span of decades or at most a century and say, that is my group, and stop there? How do we do that intellectually? That can only be an emotional choice, a desire to be one thing with a limited start-stop point when we know very well that those boundaries we are setting are imaginary, arbitrary, and all a matter of personal choice. If someone says they are German, does that imply the modern industrial and intellectual peoples of the European nation, or the previous 20th century of German people, or the diaspora Germanic tribes that fought Roman conquest millennia ago, or the 300,000 years of Neanderthals that inhabited the region and eventually bred with the Homo sapiens that wandered north? Why do we stop? Why do we pick a small cluster of numbers in the grand scheme of things and say, that is my cultural identity? Why not go all the way back to great-grand Poobah LUCA and imagine what culture said microorganismic culture would create to identify with? My thoughts and opinions on the limitations of cultural identity. Here's the thing. As I said, even the most misanthropic loners among us want to belong. It is almost a biological imperative, a need, a drive. But our minds, the origin point of our psyches, well, they're limited. We want to empathize with our victimized ancestors and yet somehow celebrate vicariously with our victorious ancestors. It's about separating those endothermic emotions from our intellectual capabilities because it is so much easier to pick a small group to belong to than it is to accept the murky, unifying biological depths of existence.